Hey D&D fam, I'm Quick.
And I'm Lee, and you're listening to
Divas and Ducats. So what is a diva? I think divas get a bad rep, but to me, diva is all about the attitude.
As for ducats, it's your finances, your assets, Skrilla, guap, your coin. We're talking all things with the potential to affect your pockets.
And while we're attorneys by trade, we are divas by choice. Divas and Ducats is for edutainment purposes.
Y'all, we are not Series 511 or 703 professionals. This does not create a financial advisor
Nope.
or attorney-client relationship. The views expressed here are solely our opinions and the opinions of our guests.
It's just our opinion, y'all. Okay, divas, let's talk Ducats.
Hey D&D fam, here we are ready to close out another year.
I cannot believe it. 2021 is about to be a wrap.
Yes, over
Man.
and done.
Yeah, with the
So-
pandemic still looming.
Well, you know, they were talking the other day about, it might now be an endemic. Child, just keep wearing your mask. I don't know.
Google, what is an endemic?
Like the flu. So like how you just pass the flu around, like that's now an endemic. It's kind of like people just get the flu. And that's common. So it's like COVID's just going to be like
A string of the flu.
flu 2.0.
Okay.
But to that, I say just keep wearing your mask because that data changes a little too much for me. But, you know, we wanted to take some time and slow down before the top of the year. I think a lot of times people put a lot of pressure on the top of the year with setting goals and hit the ground running. But I think it's always really helpful to, as soon as possible before, kind of take stock of like what you've done, where you are, where you want to go. Because sometimes if you start taking those steps a few weeks before, there's less pressure. I just feel like that January 1, people just feel like I got to be a bigger, better version of me.
Yeah, that is what's
Today.
pushed.
Right. So, yeah, we wanted to sit back and take a step back and talk through some of that, right? So this is our session with you all to kind of just, you know, if you have a notebook, some people like to journal, just kind of let's go through the things. Let's go
take
through
stock.
Yes, from December 2020 to December of 2021.
Yeah. So, and then I know we wanted to kind of approach this in asking our D&D family to take stock, but also to, you know, bring divas and ducats to the table and what we've done within the year, you know, put a little bit of vulnerability out there. So how are you doing? Like, because of the pandemic, endemic, booster shots, all the things, you know, there was just a large mental space, and I think it might have been even, I'm not going to say it was harder than 2020, but I think when people thought it was going away and then it came back and then those deaths started increasing again. I've known several people whose family members have, you know, unfortunately passed away through COVID. So it's just like one of those things where you had this space where you were ready to, I guess, try to find your peace again. And
Right.
And then, you know, then that fear component kind of comes back. So like not only just business-wise, because that's often what we think, business and fitness, J1, but mentally, like just how are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how am I doing?
How are you doing, Lee, specifically?
I will say for me, I am in a better mental space in 21 than 20. To be very transparent, I think for me, backing up a little bit, so I'm more of an introvert. I'm not a shy introvert, so people who know me will be like, I mean, she's not shy.
Right.
Most introverts aren't necessarily shy, but I am that person who's like, you know, a little alone time, I'm good, I don't need a lot of... So when the pandemic first hit, I was fine. It was that whole 3 weeks of like, you know, be in your house, get your groceries. I was like, all right,
Yay.
well, I got some Netflix shows to watch. Like, I got a
Right,
plan.
right.
And I really struggled, I would say, summer of 2020. I was I feel like in a very fragile state. And I have always been a person, you know, when we think back on the mental health episodes with like Cheryl, and I've always more so identified with certain feelings of like anxiety of the what could happen, the future thinking. But I think I kind of had that experience with like what depression felt like. And I actually, for me, in late 2020 and leading into 21, leaned more into therapy because there were, if I'm being fully honest, like I never had thoughts of just like actually hurting myself. But I did find myself at one point thinking like, if something happened to me, would it matter? And that's not a space to be in, right? And I think the things that kept me going, or the things that I kind of really grasped onto, for that lack of, at the time, having something to look forward to, were like doing the show and like exercise. For me, it became, I don't know if it was, I wouldn't quite call it addiction, but it was like, I need to do these things because those are the spaces where I'm not in my head. So I would say comparatively, like, yeah, very much better space. I think that still have to be aware of the things that, like, what puts you in that space, or what are things you can do to, you know, control the things you can control. But yeah, so that's what I would say. If I think about 2020 or versus 2021, like, better. It could still be better, of course, because pandemic. You know, I still have friends, like, I have not seen them this year. So that's crazy. So, but how are you, Quick?
I'm doing well. I think the outside, we outside, it has helped. Just being able to kind of connect with people again, even if it's, for me, it's basically really just going over a select few people's house, you know, and hanging out. Like, I'm still not trying to, I mean, I did go to a basketball game, you know, and didn't think about COVID at the time. I got sick a week later and was hospitalized.
Like, oh my God.
So, you know, the whole time I was like, oh my God, I shouldn't have went to the basketball game. But other than that, I'm doing well. I think it really helped me getting a dog, and just that energy from them.
You're a pandemic puppy.
I did. I got a pandemic puppy who's now a 100-pound Rottweiler. But, you know, they're just oblivious to extenual circumstances. They're consistent.
Right.
So that energy was really good for me. I think my home is I like to say we're a very hyper home. We're very high energy. So we were completely fine staying at home, you know, still having fun, still being hyper. I will say kind of to the opposite of you, like, exercise has always been that place for me where I could, like you said, go and you don't, when you're exercising and you exercising hard, you can't think about anything at that moment but exercise, right? So in the mornings, it kind of became my state of meditation, but there was a space when I got out of that for a while, whether was it because I was sick or whatever, and got out of it for a while. And when I got out of it, you know, I was just like really, I don't know, not necessarily sad, but I was just like in a funk, you know? And it took some work to get out of that space. But like you said, it definitely helped knowing, okay, I got Divas and Duckets to record. We got this place, you know, to go. We got to go do some hosting. So having that and having these business meetings and things that we have always pulls me out of it. And I definitely, you know, it's something to look forward to. So I would say, like, mentally in this space, especially in the holiday season, I'm doing well, especially because we have a trip coming up. So. So, yeah, the family, we really encourage you to think about it that way. Like, 2020, where were you mentally? Where are you now? If you're still in a space, understandably so, your feelings are valid. But if you're still in a space where you don't feel like you, it's perfectly fine to, and we'll, you know, repost those resources. Talk to someone. You know, I am very transparent that shout out to therapy. Even in, sometimes you'll even notice your responses to things are just more, you know, less triggered. And that I would not be in that space without therapy. I would probably still be, you know. So, okay, when we think about small business, so those of you, you know, we talked towards the
the end of last year about, you want to start a business or you want to do something outside of your 9 to 5. Maybe you just want to transition. What were your successes? What were your wins? And all those wins don't necessarily have to be this big
win.
I got this contract, and if you did, great.
Right.
But
right.
what were the things that were positive steps that you now have accomplished that were not present last year?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I guess bringing D&D to the table, as you say, what would you say our successes were?
Definitely getting on YouTube. We did not have that in 2020. We started that out in 2021. It's been really wonderful. Even with our engineer, I feel like in that space, we've all grown.
Yeah.
From our first recording to now. So that's just been definitely something, like I said, that did not exist in 2020. Hosting financial seminars did not happen in 2020. We were so super excited to host the Black Wealth Summit. It was amazing, and we're looking forward to partnering with them in the future. So we did that. Just having on, of course, different guests. I like that this year we did more relationship stuff because, for me, I have always said, if you are an avid listener here, that I believe those ships have such a huge impact on your finances. The choices and who you surround yourself with have such a huge impact. So bringing in people just to talk about relationships and that impact on their finances, I'm always excited to have new guests on and bringing in knowledge that where I can learn at. So I think those will be our two biggest changes that we had.
I definitely agree, and I would even say, don't sell yourself short with the technology space. This is our IT personnel.
Yes, because we did our first reel. It was funny because after we had a guest on Legally Domesticated, actually, I did my first reel shortly thereafter.
Yes.
And I was like, oh,
She has
this
the
is a lot
music
of work.
So yes, I think that D&D has gotten better from that technological space.
Yeah.
And even like just changing up, because Instagram, Facebook, all of them, they're ever evolving.
Yeah.
So even being like, okay, how do we kind of do this, or how do we maybe do a video? Nowadays everybody's like, it's video.
Yeah.
The
shorts, as they call them.
Yeah, I think we'll stay in the reels for a little bit. I don't know about that TikTok life, but we'll see. We'll see. 22.
Right.
But yeah, okay. I definitely agree there. I think that we were doing it in 2020. I think we were very consistent with our business meetings. So Quick and I are friends, but we're also in this endeavor business partners.
Right.
So there are times where we have to literally sit down and plan out, what are we going to do for an episode? What kind of topics do we want to cover? It may not be a script per se, but just what do we want to make sure that we cover when we're speaking to you all, so that we're not forgetting something important, so that we're not, because it's sometimes off the cuff, you end up forgetting things and be like, I should have said that.
Right.
So we were very intentional about, okay, we're going to sit down, maybe over some wine, and we're going to go through some things. The other thing I think was a win for us is we started selling merch.
Yes.
So we did not have that in
was huge.
2020. Now we have it on our site, divasandducats.com. Go get you some.
Go get you some.
And so we have been selling our merch. That was a big deal.
Yeah.
And so I think, that is the point to me of small business. I think some people are fortunate enough to have that, like they just catapult, or you'll just see them doing these big things. But most people's story, it's a slow grind.
Right.
It's a
gradual step.
yeah. So all right. So needing improvement, right? So we got our wins. Those are the things that are great. What areas for you, whatever your goal is, whether it's, again, it may not be starting a business, it may be, I want to get into rental properties, or I want to get into this different business venture, whatever that goal is. What are areas, as you've been developing your plan, developing that project plan, I guess, towards that goal, where could you improve?
And to that, as you were saying that, it just made me also think, first have a plan. Okay.
Yes.
I think it's really important when you go into businesses, like to just map that out. I mean, we said when we first started, we sat down, who was going to be our target audience? What do we actually want our topics to be surrounding by, because like we said, we talk about everything that could affect your financial bag, but how is we going to bring it back to finances so it's not just some general hodgepodge of conversations, right? Like when you come here, you know something is going to be impacted by finances. So being able to have those plans, we write ours out. We have a plethora of journals that we keep our topics in, notes, laptop. Like we use things to write those things down, and we want our vision to always be aligned. As business partners, of course, we bring our different energies, but we want our bottom line to be aligned. And I think sometimes people, especially like idealists, they usually tend to have just those ideas and run those things off, right? But don't necessarily have a plan of action steps.
Right.
Because I think in this taking stock, when you talk about your wins and losses, if you have those action steps and you have those plans written out, you can look back at that list and say, oh yeah, these are some of the things that I achieved. Because oftentimes we don't look at, especially when we talk about J1, we don't look at our wins, right? We can't define our successes, but if you've had that action plan, you can say, oh man, I did achieve this. I did, these things did align. And these are where I can improve, the things I can improve on, or what I achieved. But, this could have been done better. What were some of the learning lessons from those things?
Yeah. And to your point on that, I think when you think about action steps, because I am a person that can get overwhelmed when a task seems too large. So even in that action step, there might be like one big goal or deadline you want to meet, but there might be several little tasks towards meeting that goal. So try to break down within that goal. So let's say you want to secure a contract. Okay, so what are small steps to secure a contract that you can take? Maybe you could speak to someone who's, in a similar field that maybe got a contract. Maybe talk to them, set up a little virtual coffee, and just run through, like, how did you go about doing that? Maybe what are some resources? The things that we talked about before with, like, getting a DUNS number. If you're minority-owned, women-owned, veteran-owned, getting that certification so that, okay, that puts me in a better position to get a contract. So think about the little steps too, because sometimes we could get so overwhelmed with, like, I want to do this big thing and I don't know how to do it. And so taking those very tinier steps, it can kind of get you in that space of, okay, I am marching towards this big thing of getting the contract, securing the bag.
Because like I said, sometimes if you don't have those smaller action steps, it makes you freeze. Because you're like, I don't know what I'm doing.
This is not. And some people are opposite. They just jump in, like you said, no kind of plan. They're just like, I'm going to do it and I'll figure it out. And I admire the just do it, because they do get something done. But at a certain point, you do have to figure out, and you do have to kind of come back to, okay, what is this vision? Are you doing stuff and it's in progress or pursuit of this big goal, or are you just doing stuff? You know what I mean?
And I think because me and you are both planners, like we've connected with the jumpers, right? And it helps. That's an action step for us. Going outside of who we are with our personalities and getting jumpers, they can give you a plethora of ideas to be able to.
And a battery pack in your bag, because they would just be like, you got all this planned out. Why ain't you just, so
make you jump.
Definitely get with a balance. So if you are an idealist, that's fine. And maybe you can't right now in terms of monetarily, but if there's a way to partner, a way to barter until you can actually get maybe like an employee or manager that's more of a planner, match up with what will balance you out. Because even with Quick and I being planners, we're also pushers in different in different categories within the business. So I will push for, like, okay, so let's merch. I'm gonna figure this out because we need to sell some stuff. And but you also need that person, like, so how much does this cost? And that's, that's necessary. And Quick is more of a pusher in. So I'm gonna figure out this platform, and we just gonna put something on there. I'm like, okay, girl, that's your thing. Cool. So definitely. Okay, when I think of Divas and Ducats need improvement, I think it's just continuing to figure out the YouTube space and figuring out growing viewership. For me, at least the feedback that I received, I think most of the people that I know listen to us still listen. And it makes sense, because podcasts, you could be in the car, you could be wherever, you don't have to stop and watch. But I know there's probably so many strangers that we could be helping that are on YouTube. We'll
Right.
never, maybe never
Right.
even meet them. So I would say like that is to me like the next frontier of figuring out growing the viewership from that standpoint. Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, I do definitely, like you said, just even with the two guests that we had talking about jumping, and they both spoke to how the dynamics of Instagram and TikTok and how those things are changing, right? So making sure that we're changing and keeping up with them.
Yeah.
I believe the lady from The Legally Domesticated said, she said, I would never, I'm not going to twerk.
I'm not twerking.
She's like, I'm not going to twerk on the real,
I
right?
will show these curtains.
So Divas and
she
Duckets,
does.
right. And she does them in a very fantastic
I love
way.
it.
So, just being able to get that, like you said, that viewership from being able to create reels, because it does, it takes a lot of work, it takes time until you, I guess, just master the craft. I'm sure there are people now that can do a reel.
Right.
And,
It's here.
Right. Boom. But I'm not there yet. So getting there definitely is an area for improvement, because it is, really entertaining, especially when you can make it sure that it circles back or relates to what you're doing. So again, I'm like you. I guess we will eventually get on TikTok, but let's master these.
We will not be, Divas will not be twerking on TikTok. We won't be doing that.
Don't be making no promises.
I will not. And bringing myself to the table, I probably need a little cross training, because technologically, I'd be like, I just let her have it. And I think that we do, and we encourage people, especially if you have business partnerships, to say, like, know your lane.
Yeah.
But I think it's also important to know how to do the
'Cause
other
if a
person's
person is
lane,
down,
because if she couldn't do it, I'd be like, oof.
Yeah.
So
It's true. It's very true.
so those areas, because I think, people are very good at picking themselves apart, right? So those areas where you need improvement, instead of beating yourself up about it, let's think about, like, what stopped you from doing it? Is it, a mental space? Is it, because again, we are in a pandemic and we are just in this space where life has not been normal for 2 years now. So give yourself grace. But also be honest with yourself about what was it that stopped you from doing the things that you wanted to do. If it, again, is a mental block or something that you need to, like, okay, let me take a step back, let me meditate, let me speak to someone, that's something that you can work through, and your, mental health provider will definitely help you work through the steps of, how do I get back to a level of productivity that I want to be in? Now, if it's just, I don't have the time, I get it,
but you don't get it.
it's like, because when we think about, and I'm not going to do that hours thing, because I feel like sometimes that can seem kind of condescending, especially to people who have, like, kids and things. Like, when you add things to your life, life is hectic, but life is going to always keep lifing.
Always.
And so, how are you being intentional with your time? So if you know you got these kids and they got their activities, how can you carve out little chunks of your time? Maybe you don't have hours on end like somebody maybe in their 20s and single and no real responsibilities like that. But okay, are you a morning person? I have so many friends, I don't know how, that are morning people. So if you get up at 6 o'clock for the fun of it, that child maybe that has to be a daycare, school to maybe 8. So if you have that hour and a half every morning to do work on some of your plans, do some research, maybe send some emails, make some calls, things like that you can do in the lower country, in the small chunks of time that you have. Take advantage of that. I know, Quick and I used to sit and walk the track during her son's meets and practices, like, okay, well, let's just talk through this. So I think people think, when they think about time, like, I have to have hours on end to do this thing. And that's not the case. You just
that
need
was
to
going to
take,
be my suggestion. Like, I have a very active son, but when he's at jiu-jitsu, I'm sitting in the car. If I need to take a meeting, I'll schedule it then. I know I have a good hour right there, because oftentimes when we're at these sports, let's say we're actually the actual game, when we're at practices, we're not being involved in what they're doing. That's what
Right.
the coach is for, right?
Yep.
So those are hours you could set aside. It's outside of being on whatever game you fancy or watching somebody else's YouTube,
Right.
working on your business and your craft.
And if you are watching YouTube, like, watch the things that are going to help you. Because that's the
Yes.
thing, like, sometimes we get caught up in, and I get it, and sometimes in life you need little breaks. But try to maybe schedule that time, those little chunks of time that you do have, use that time to look at things that will help teach you maybe
Those
something that
how-to
you're trying to do.
videos,
Right.
Yep.
And save, Real Housewives for right before bed, So really think about those steps that you took this year and write them down and just be reviewing them. And I think that it's important to congratulate yourself, right?
Yeah.
In the areas that you did do well, in the wins that you did have, in the people that you did reach. I
Yeah.
know sometimes, like, the repost I'll see or the message I'll see, it'll be a person I never met.
Right.
And it's just great to know that, because I think sometimes being fully transparent as a small business, because Divas and Ducats is a small business, you can question that slow growth or not, quite being where, especially if you got a big dream, or not being there yet, the journey, you could question, like, is this valuable?
Is this
Are people
valuable?
really,
Yeah.
whatever? And you need that feedback. And so really trust yourself and know that what you are planning, what you're wanting to do has value. It is going to help someone. It is going to be more than just a bag. It is going to make a difference. And give yourself that. Like, be your battery pack. If you need affirmations, do what you got to do. But yeah, as we're taking stock, make sure that you're not just being like, oh, I didn't do this. Oh,
Yeah,
not
it's
for that.
easy to criticize yourself for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we told you guys it would be a short episode, so we just wanted to, put some things out there that help you take stock, with a very important, like we said, to make sure that you celebrate your wins. No matter how small they are, you did something, you took action, you checked something off. If there are triggers that, if you feel like yourself and you're going, you got that gas pedal down and something stops you, be aware of your triggers, so you can make sure that those in 2022 are not hindering you from progressing the way that you need to progress. Be gentle with yourself, give yourself grace, but make sure that you are doing the things that you need to do to accomplish your goals. So that's what we will say. We really appreciate all of you guys, especially if, the ones that are subscribing on YouTube.
Yes.
If you are watching now and have not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button below. Make sure that you are sharing our videos. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We're Divas and Ducats on both platforms under the same names. We haven't had a diva letter probably in a few episodes, but if you do have questions that you want to write about, something that's that's related in your life, and you have questions, we do read them anonymously. So if you want to reach out, you can reach out to divaadvice@gmail.com. And we hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful holiday season, and Happy New Year. And anything you want to say?
Just keep yourself accountable. Write
Yeah.
them down. Set those SMART goals. Go back to last year to go down the SMART list. Our December episode, we kind of walked through that. And have business meetings, even if it's just with yourself, to hold yourself
they're so
accountable.
important. Yeah.
So that's all I got.
All right. We thank you guys, and have a great attitude. We will see y'all in the new year.